Hey guys, tonight we're diving into one of the most extravagant and unusual areas of world history, the bedroom politics of imperial China. You're not just here as an observer, you're stepping into the role of the emperor. Yes, you in your sweatpants. But before you settle onto your jade throne, let me be clear, survival is not guaranteed. It's not just the plotting concubines, ambitious eunuchs, or endless rituals you need to worry about. Managing a harem of thousands while juggling political power and historic views on sex can be deadlier than battle.so. Before getting too cozy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly appreciate what I'm sharing. Also, drop your city and the current time where you are. I'm curious where my time-traveling emperors are tuning in from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for a soft background hum. Let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're lounging in the Hall of Mental Cultivation, the Emperor's private quarters deep in the Forbidden City. The air carries a hint of sandalwood and lamp oil. Outside, court officials scurry like ants under the blood-orange dusk. Inside, everything slows down. Your night isn't about reports or rebellions, but about the roster. And yes, there's a literal bedroom roster. Your concubines, numbering in the thousands during peak dynasties like the Tang and Qing, are cataloged, ranked, and rotated with strict precision. Only a select few are summoned each night. This selection process is not random. It involves wooden name tags stored in a tray called the yupipai. Each tag has a woman's name and is kept cool in silver basins. The eunuchs pick them up, announce your choice, and then, brace yourself, they carry the selected concubine in a silk-covered blanket to your bedchamber. Yes, carried like a sleepy burrito. This is to make sure she doesn't smuggle in poison, weapons, or charms to enhance pregnancy. She also has to be healthy. Before she even reaches you, she's been inspected, bathed, perfumed, and often checked by a physician to ensure she isn't menstruating. In traditional Chinese medicine, that was a significant cosmic no. Everything about imperial sex is steeped in ritual, from the timing, scheduled around lucky moments, to the direction the bed faces. As the son of heaven, you must channel harmony through your essence. This isn't just about pleasure. It's politics, metaphysics, and a full-time job. It's hard to imagine today, but for many emperors, sex wasn't about personal gratification. It was a duty, a sacred obligation to maintain the universe through intercourse. You're not just having fun, you're upholding cosmic order, and that pressure can build up. You might have favorite concubines, perhaps the soft-voiced Lady Zhao or the spirited Lady Li, but you can't always choose them. You need to distribute your yang energy wisely across the harem, matching it with yin according to Taoist charts. Too much with one woman and you risk weakening your life force. Too little might lead to poor rice harvests for the empire. Think I'm exaggerating? Taoist sex manuals, some dating back to the Han Dynasty, warned against excessive indulgence. They believed too many climaxes would drain your jing, your vital essence, and could lead to early death. Sleep moderately or die handsome. Naturally, not every emperor adhered to this. Some engaged in record-breaking sexual marathons like Emperor Wu of Jin, who supposedly died during coitus. This story might have some truth, or it could be a moral lesson from disapproving Confucian historians. Scholars still debate whether these tales of dying from lust were real, or just warnings about the dangers of decadence and distraction from good governance. It's the ancient equivalent of a tabloid headline. Emperor found dead with favorite concubine, but written in calligraphy on bamboo scrolls. So here you are, reclining on soft pillows while a concubine bows before you, eyes lowered, hands slightly trembling, not necessarily from fear but from cunning. For her, this isn't just a night of intimacy. It's a chance for a promotion. A single pregnancy could elevate her from a low-ranking maid to the noble mother of a future emperor. But don't get too relaxed. That same pregnancy could make her a target. Poison teas, suspicious miscarriages, disappearing servants. This is all part of life in the harem. And it's your responsibility to keep track of everything or delegate it to a clever eunuch who probably knows more about your sex life than you do. The harem isn't a free-for-all either. There's a strict hierarchy. The empress is at the top, followed by imperial consorts, noble concubines, and then a long list of women hoping for just one night with you. Some will live and die in the palace without ever being summoned. Others will rise quickly, like Consort Yang, whose beauty was said to make flowers blush and whose relationship with Emperor Xuanzong sparked jealousy, war, and eventual rebellion. Those are the emotional stakes we're dealing with. Want a surprising detail? The emperor didn't get to initiate things on a whim. He couldn't just say, "Hey, I'm in the mood." Sex was logged in official court records. Yes, that means bureaucrats kept a detailed account of who you slept with and when, like a cosmic HR department. These records were important for genealogy, succession, and even tax purposes. Having a legitimate heir wasn't just about preference. It was a matter of state, and surrounding all this was the heavy air of ritual. The imperial bedroom was silent, except for the rustle of robes, the distant clang of bronze bells marking the hour, and the faint murmur of prayers to the ancestors. You'd think that with all the pressure, the act itself would feel tense or even awkward, and it often did. For the concubine, one misstep could lead to banishment. For you, it meant scandal. Yet somehow, within these tight margins, passion sometimes bloomed, though it often came with strings attached. So, as you lie there, blinking up at a carved dragon above your canopy bed, consider this. Absolute power might let you summon beauty at will, but pleasure here is not simple. It's political theater. It's a metaphysical ritual. It's personal danger. You have 3,000 women competing for your attention, but not one person you can trust completely, except maybe that old eunuch who's been with you since you were 10. And even he is known to gossip. This is just your first night. You wait for the scent of lotus blossom lingering in the air and the gentle tapping of bronze bells outside the window screens. Morning light filters through the silk curtains, golden and soft. The concubine is already gone, whisked away by eunuchs before dawn to prevent any unauthorized loitering or the chance of tampering with imperial bloodlines. She'll be examined, debriefed, and returned to her assigned quarters. You, meanwhile, stretch out in the center of the enormous bed, feeling both godlike and oddly empty. It's another day in the life of the emperor, and you're already behind schedule. Today's business is not with ministers or border conflicts, but with something far older and harder to control: your own mortality. You've heard the rumors. Emperors don't just die from illness or assassins. They fade away, drained by desire and worn thin by centuries of ritual. You don't want to be remembered as another exhausted ruler found sprawled across silk sheets, lips blue, with a scroll of teachings on sex clutched in your hand. So you do what so many before you have done. You consult the alchemists. They arrive in flowing robes, smelling of ash and dried herbs, carrying jars of glowing powders and scrolls covered in looping symbols. Their pitch is always the same: immortality lies not in stone or sword, but in your own body. They say to harness your jing, refine your essence, control your urges, and most importantly, don't spill your seed too often. That's where your power lies. You're skeptical but not dismissive. After all, you've read about Qin Shang, the first emperor, unifier of China, a powerhouse of paranoia and ambition. He was obsessed with immortality. The man ordered the construction of a massive necropolis guarded by 8,000 life-size terra-cotta soldiers, just in case the afterlife needed backup. He also reportedly died after taking mercury pills, an ironic twist considering mercury was supposed to make him live forever. Still, you get it. The idea of death reaching someone with divine blood seems absurd. You're the axis between heaven and earth, literally the son of heaven. How can the natural world touch you? Unless, of course, you're leaking your life force nightly into embroidered pillows and overworked concubines. So, you study. The Taoist texts from the Han and Tang dynasties are especially enlightening, though also confusing. They describe immortality as a kind of internal struggle, battles between yin and yang, semen and breath, desire and discipline. You learn about the practice of Feng Zhongshu, the arts of the bedchamber, where sex is viewed not just as pleasure, but as medicine and ritual. According to these guides, ejaculation is a loss, but intercourse without release is mastery. You're meant to draw out the yin energy of the woman, absorb it, circulate it through your body, and emerge more virile than before. Basically, it's like tantric sex, but with added bureaucracy. The pressure to maintain this balance is enormous. The court physicians track your vitality, and your closest eunuchs, who have their own silent access to secret texts, remind you not to waste the dragon's essence. In a strange way, even your desire has become nationalized. You start to wonder if pleasure is just another face of work. One fringe theory you encounter suggests that sexual energy can be redirected to fuel magical abilities, clairvoyance, prophetic dreams, even flight. You don't really believe it, but part of you wants to. Especially when you hear that some emperors attempt to prolong their lives by sleeping with virgins, particularly young ones, thinking it would renew their yang. That rumor swirls especially heavily around Emperor Wu of Han, who supposedly surrounded himself with teenage girls and avoided climax altogether. Did it work? Well, he lived into his 70s, which in ancient China could be considered immortality. But not all quests for immortality are so clinical. Some are bizarre. One late Ming emperor reportedly had a team of astrologers chart the perfect time for sex to ensure maximum spiritual benefit. That meant sleeping with concubines at 3:17 am while facing east on the second Tuesday of a lunar month. If that doesn't kill the mood, nothing will. Still, death looms. You've heard about rulers who tried to cheat it, only to hasten their own decline. Mercury poisoning, celibacy-induced depression, ritual exhaustion. Some scholars argue that the obsession with immortality actually made emperors easier to manipulate. If the right alchemist promised eternal life, he could become the emperor's shadow. And in the back of your mind, you keep circling back to Qin Shi Huang. He didn't just build walls and armies, he chased eternal life across the entire empire. He sent fleets east to find the legendary Isles of the Immortals, where sages supposedly lived off dew and moonlight. None of the expeditions returned. Some say they fled to avoid punishment. Others believe they found paradise and simply didn't want to share. Scholars today still debate whether these voyages were real, symbolic, or an elaborate ploy to hide the fact that the emperor feared dying alone. As you sip a bitter tonic made from crushed pearls and deer antler, you begin to grasp a truth no one dares to voice. For emperors, sex and death are connected in a way that feels almost poetic. You sleep with hundreds of women, not to celebrate life, but to fend off death. Every ritual, every guarded night, every breathless encounter is a kind of gamble. If you win, you extend your life. If you lose, you become another cautionary tale like Emperor Ai, rumored to be so infatuated with his male lover that he ignored state matters and was ultimately overthrown. Of course, no one would ever say this to your face. Your court will continue to bring you elixir, young maidens, and celestial charts. Your eunuchs will still coordinate midnight encounters like logistics for a campaign. And your alchemists will assure you that your essence is glowing. Still, you're starting to suspect the truth. The quest for immortality might be killing you faster than time ever could. You lie awake again, not from worry, though there's plenty of that, but because your mind spins with diagrams of breath, arrows of energy, and swirling vortexes of yin and yang. You've been reading the old sex manuals again, the really ancient ones that the eunuchs only bring out under strict orders. These are not dusty scrolls filled with pretty poetry. They are anatomical, metaphysical, and deeply strange. One of them starts with a line that makes you blink. When the jade stalk enters the golden gate, the celestial dragon awakens. Right, so tonight, you're going to awaken a dragon with your body. You chuckle softly, then stop because even laughter feels like it might drain your energy. That's the thing about Taoist bedroom practices. They make everything feel sacred and a bit risky. According to these teachings, sex isn't just a pleasure or a way to make heirs. It's a metaphysical exercise. It's a chance to connect with the cosmos, strengthen your spirit, and ideally live forever. You have met your Taoist master, an old man with eyebrows so long they curl like calligraphy strokes. He has shown you where to press, when to breathe, and most importantly, when not to finish. Ejaculation is death, he warns in a husky whisper. Retention is immortality. So now you're practicing the ancient art of jewel cultivation. It's less of a romp and more about slow discipline, like tantric yoga performed in silence, with the pressure of heavenly balance looming over your bed. The goal is to have sex without climax. You should circulate the aroused energy through your meridians like water through irrigation ditches. You are supposed to inhale deeply at the moment of peak sensation. Lock your muscles, roll your eyes upward, and pull the seed back into your spine. Sounds romantic, right? Your concubine tonight is experienced. She has been trained for this. In fact, some women were raised within Taoist sects just for this purpose. They are not just lovers. They are energy batteries, carefully chosen for their yin, purity, age, and sometimes even their star sign. Tonight's partner, Lady Ju, has skin like fresh porcelain and a movement that feels more like a ritual dance than seduction. She bows, whispers a mantra you barely catch, and helps you into position. This is less foreplay and more astronomy. You both move together slowly and deliberately. Each thrust pairs with an inhalation. Each exhale grounds your essence. It's not just about holding back. It's about transforming the urge into vitality. If done correctly, you might see visions, have flying dreams, or at least avoid gout for a few more decades. Lady Ju remains focused. Her eyes are half closed in a trance, and she murmurs about jade palaces and dew-on lotuses. It's beautiful, but also tiring. Part of you begins to wonder, is this sex or a very elaborate high-stakes nap? There are even warnings in the text that overdoing this. Yes, even sacred sex can lead to loss of soul, spontaneous nosebleeds, and ghost sightings. One story claims that Emperor Leon of the Western Han tried to force a girl to have ritual sex every night for a month, causing her to start levitating and weeping blood. Maybe it's apocryphal, maybe just a ghost story told by court physicians to encourage you to take a night off. But you're not the only one who has found these rituals overwhelming. There's a tale about Emperor Cheng of the Han Dynasty, who was so dedicated to following Taoist techniques that he reportedly died trying to withhold climax with his favorite consort, Zhao Yan. Her beauty was legendary. Poets claimed she danced on the palms of men and left no footprints. He, poor fool, tried to ride that cosmic wave until his essence broke like a cheap vase. The irony is this: no air, no immortality, just an embarrassing mark in history. But not all scholars believe these stories. Some argue that the idea that emperors use sex for spiritual growth was more legend than reality, a way for later dynasties to legitimize or romanticize decadent rulers. Others argue the opposite, that we've underestimated how seriously Taoist teachings were taken. Shaped imperial policy, especially during the Tang and Song periods, when the mix of spirituality, medicine, and sex was particularly intense. The truth likely lies somewhere in the middle, partly sincere practice, partly political theater. You can feel that theater now. There's a eunuch stationed outside the curtain, listening to your breathing. He'll log the encounter, check your pulse later, and record how many thrusts occurred. That's right. Imperial Seal comes with performance metrics. If that feels invasive, wait until you hear about the essence reports sent to court healers. If you're too sluggish, you might get prescribed rhinoceros horn powder or tiger bone wine. If you're too vigorous, you might be banned from sex for a week to preserve your Kai. So, as you lie here, Lady Ju resting beside you like a living statue, your limbs tingling with what could be energy or maybe just exhaustion, you begin to understand the weight of it all. This isn't passion, it's pressure. It's a choreographed ritual written in muscle tension and breath. And yes, it's kind of sexy in a mystic performance art way, but it's also tiring. There's no cuddling afterward, no whispered jokes, just silence. And the knowledge that you've either added one more drop of vitality to your cup or accidentally spilled the whole thing. As your Taoist master would say, each drop saved is a day extended. You're not completely convinced, but in the quiet hours before dawn, you like to believe it might be true. You're sitting in the Hall of Supreme Harmony, pretending to listen as your ministers drone on about harvest quotas and provincial disputes. But your mind drifts back to last night's silent, breath-synchronized lovemaking. Or was it breath combat? Hard to say. Either way, it left you with sore legs and a vague sense that your spleen might have shifted. But before you dwell too long on your internal alchemy progress, you feel a tap at your side and hear a discreet whisper. The eunuchs request your attention. You nod and rise with practiced gravity. Another meeting, another problem, but this one is happening behind screens. You know what that means? It's bedroom business. In the world of Chinese emperors, there's no real separation between the court and the bedroom. Politics doesn't stop when the silk robes come off. Right now, you're gatekeepers to that private world. The eunuchs have something urgent to report. Now, let's discuss the eunuchs. These men are your most trusted advisors, assistants, and sometimes secretaries of seduction. Their roles aren't just to shuffle paperwork and light incense. They are the glue that holds your home together. They've been surgically altered. Yes, that kind of alteration to ensure absolute loyalty and, of course, to prevent any chance that the imperial bloodline gets mixed. Their lack of equipment should make them trustworthy in theory, though in practice, they've managed to gain immense power through sheer cunning. Inside your private hall, The lead eunuch bows low, his voice like parchment rustling. Your Majesty, there was a disturbance last night in the southern pavilion. You raise an eyebrow. Disturbance is never a good word. It turns out too lower ranked. Concubines got into a screaming match over whose UPI was more likely to be chosen this week. The fight escalated into broken porcelain, bruised cheeks, and one collapsed incense burner. These kinds of quiet battles make up life in the harem. Simmering rivalries, jealousy over scheduling, and calculated attempts to get closer to you, the walking embodiment of divine power. And it's all managed by the eunuchs. These men carry your orders, keep the concubines in line, and act as silent witnesses to your most private moments. They even take part in inspection rituals. Yes, they check the concubines before and after a nightly visit, ensuring cleanliness, confirming that no spells or poisons are hidden in garments, and noting any injuries or oddities. It's all very thorough and depending on your mood, either comforting or unsettling. Eunuchs aren't just glorified butlers, though some become power brokers. During the Tang dynasty, one eunuch named Geishi was so powerful that he basically ran the court from behind the curtain. Another during the Ming commanded armies. Eunuchs controlled information flow, access to you, and sometimes altered reports to protect their favorites or remove rivals. You think the ministers are scary? Try crossing a eunuch who knows every intimate detail of your schedule, preferences, and weaknesses. Let's not ignore the difficult truth. Becoming a eunuch wasn't just about getting a job at the palace. It involved a painful, often crude operation done in unsanitary conditions with no guarantee of survival. Some were castrated as children by desperate families hoping to gain favor at court. Others chose it, chasing dreams of status, power, and wealth. Because yes, a successful eunuch could gather huge fortunes. He couldn't pass on a name or create heirs, but he could own land, influence, appointments, and even help place an emperor on the throne. In a strange way, eunuchs lived both above and below society. They were mocked by scholars, feared by generals, and needed by everyone. Some were spiritual guides, others careful record keepers, and a few were top manipulators. And you live among them daily, trusting them with your safety, your lineage, and your throne. It makes you wonder who's really in charge, doesn't it? One quirky practice you've accepted is the bedtime escort ritual. Each night, a eunuch oversees your chosen concubines as they make their way to your chambers. They're bathed, powdered, and wrapped in ceremonial silk. Here's the strange part. 2 eunuchs lift and carry her like a sacred offering. Her feet never touch the ground during transport. This is believed to prevent tampering and evil energy. It also makes sure no woman sneaks into your room uninvited, a situation that has occurred before. Legend says that during the Song dynasty, a concubine faked her name tag and bribed a low-level eunuch to gain entry. She was discovered later, but not before becoming pregnant. That scandal led to several exiles, and the eunuch involved was never seen again. Consequently, this role is more than just logistical. It's spiritual too. Eunuchs are seen as unique figures. They aren't quite male or female, occupying a mysterious space that positions them as perfect mediators. Some become respected shamans or interpreters of omens. If a eunuch dreams of blood, it may signal war. If he dreams of peaches, it could mean there will be a birth. Dreams are recorded, discussed, and analyzed in morning briefings. You smile, recalling when an old eunuch insisted that a dream about frogs meant you should avoid eating fish for a month. You humored him. Then, a rival noble choked on a cart bone. Coincidence? Perhaps or perhaps not. Modern historians still debate how much power eunuchs held. Some argue they were scapegoats for larger systemic failures, blamed when dynasties fell or emperors became immoral. Others cite hard evidence such as signed edicts, launch wars, and chosen empresses under eunuch guidance. Regardless, their presence was unavoidable. You, like every emperor before you, depend on them. In the present, the lead eunuch finishes his report and bows. You thank him and request the 2 quarreling concubines be assigned meditation duties. Then you pause. Bring me Lady May tonight, you say softly. The eunuch nods, discreetly notes your request, and retreats into the shadows. Another name is added to the scroll, another night is planned, and another secret is kept. As you return to your court duties, nodding at a proposal for canal repairs, you can't help but marvel at the strangeness of your situation. You are The most powerful man in the world, and your nights, your most private moments, are scripted, supervised, and recorded by a staff of surgically altered bureaucrats with better memories than your generals. Outside, a bell rings 3 times. A concubine's bath begins, and for a moment, you wonder what it would be like to be normal. It's late afternoon, and the light softens into a honeyed glow that even makes the stone lions of the courtyard look sleepy. You finished court early. A rare perk of being emperor when you choose to skip the details of regional grain disputes. Instead, you head toward the western wing of the palace, where someone has been waiting all day. Her name isn't recorded in public documents, but everyone knows who she is. She's the most powerful woman in the palace, second only to you. And in some ways, far more dangerous. She is the Empress Dagger. She doesn't rise when you enter. She remains seated on her carved rosewood throne. Her expression is unreadable behind layers of powder, jewels, and perfectly feigned disinterest. It's impressive how she appears both unimpressed and unchallengeable. Her fingers rest lightly on a small carved phoenix, and her lips twitch upward slightly. She seems pleased to see you or perhaps amused. With her, it's often hard to tell. Tonight, you are not here as her son, stepson, or distant relative, depending on how the dynasty lines are arranged. You are here as emperor, facing the matriarch who once held, and may still hold, the real reins of power. She as always is testing you. The Empress Daya knows every rule of the palace. She helped write some of them. She has navigated decades of intrigue, fended off assassins, silenced rivals, and strategically placed her favorites in the harem to control your father, brother, or you. In her presence, even the boldest generals hold back. Yes, she was once just a concubine, clever, young, ambitious, and very, very lucky. You think about all this as you sip the tea she offers. Osmanthus, light and sweet, but possibly symbolic because everything with her carries meaning. You recall the stories of Empress Daya Sixi, who effectively ruled China from behind a curtain for nearly half a century. She began as a low-ranked concubine, bore a son, and skillfully manipulated her way into power with unmatched political skill. When male ministers opposed her involvement, she sat behind a silk screen during court meetings and expressed her wishes through intermediaries' power without ever being seen. Sixi also wielded influence in the bedroom. She decided who could see the emperor and when, particularly if he was too young or ill to make those choices himself. There are whispers that she sometimes arranged visits from specific concubines not for their beauty but for their family connections, noble lineages that could be kept close or oppressed depending on her desires. Rumor has it she even selected bed testers, women who would warm the emperor's bed before the actual concubine arrived under the guise of checking the temperature. Imagine that job title. Debate exists over whether Sixi was a monster or a misunderstood genius. Some see her as a tyrant who redirected funds to remodel palaces while foreign powers threatened the gates. Others view her as a clever operator, the only one keeping the fragile court together as the world outside changed rapidly. The truth, like many things in the palace, likely lies hidden within her embroidered sleeves. You are not Sixi's son, but the Empress Dagger across from you carries a similar energy. She can ruin a man with just a sigh, and when she leans in to speak, it's not gossip, it's strategy. You've been favoring Lady May lately, she says softly, her eyes fixed on your teacup. You pause. There it is, the real reason she called you. She has been watching, calculating, maybe even questioning the eunuchs you trust. Nothing escapes her attention in her part of the palace. She has a gentle nature, you say carefully. She has a dangerous uncle. She replies just as carefully. In that moment, the entire room shifts. You are no longer discussing preference or routines. You are discussing court politics, factional alliances, and the very real chance that too much time spent with the wrong woman could shift the balance of power. In the imperial court, desire is risky, not for what it fulfills, but for what it promises. An emperor's affection acts like currency. Every time you favor someone, you are investing in a family, a faction, maybe even a future rebellion. It's no surprise that the Empress Dagger, once a concubine herself, understands this better than anyone. She exemplifies what a smart woman can do with limited power and good timing. She likely knows better than you how things operate behind the palace walls. She has likely chosen her own favorites among the concubines. Women who report back to her, who watch what you eat, who smile and whisper things meant to nudge you in her favored direction. You think you control your nights, but more than once you've woken up feeling like a pawn in someone else's game. Still, you are emperor, at least officially, and you remind her of that with a small, deliberate smile. I'll keep your concerns in mind, you say, getting up, but I trust my judgment. At first, she doesn't respond. Then slowly, she bows her head, not as a sign of submission but as an acknowledgement. The conversation is over, but the conflict continues. As you walk back to your quarters, past marble courtyards and flickering lanterns, you recognize how much of your sex life revolves around control, not passion. It's not just about who shares your bed. It's about who arranged for them to be there and the consequences of that choice throughout the palace. In this world, the Empress Dogger is the conductor of desire, not through seduction, but through surveillance. Later that night, Lady May joins you as requested. She is beautiful, kind, and just shy enough to be endearing. Yet you can't shake the echo of your earlier conversation. As she pours your wine and smiles at you with long lashes, you wonder whether she loves you or is simply playing the part she was given. Does she know what her uncle plans? Does she care? You reach for her hand anyway, because even emperors feel lonely. Even gods on thrones need someone to look at them as a man, not just as a title. But when she leans in, her perfume smells like osmanthus, and you wonder if that too is a message. The next morning, you wake with a lingering ache in your chest, not from illness or exertion, but from something you can't quite define. Maybe it's the perfume again, osmanthus. It clung to Lady May's robe, her skin, even the sheets. Or maybe it's the aftertaste of suspicion swirling in your stomach like spoiled wine. You have spent your whole life surrounded by women trained to please, serve, and spy on you. While last night was soft, almost sweet, it also reminded you that in your world, intimacy is a performance, and trust is as rare as a snowflake in midsummer Beijing. Still, the day moves on. You attend to a few